Something we seem to hear a lot nowadays is the fitness industry is so toxic or negative, something like that. But what does that mean? Also, what are some things we can do to continue to thrive in this culture, and what are some things we can do to change it? But first, I asked some of our community members what it means, and apparently it means different things to different people. Some bring up gym etiquette, others bring up toxic social media influencers, and others bring up what might be considered unhealthy ideals. And the comment section of many videos across the internet were also brought up, so with that in mind, let's try to be respectful in this one. Maybe. So there are a lot of slightly different ideas on what makes fitness culture toxic, and I can't cover them all right now, so I want to focus on an underlying similarity, which is, why would someone intentionally make another person feel bad or unwelcome? Now, I know that doesn't cover everything people think is toxic, it's just what I want to focus on for this video. But first of all, I want to address something that some of you might be thinking. Is fitness culture toxic at all? Is anything toxic? And when I asked this to some community members who have wide-ranging beliefs, how many do you think said, no, fitness culture is not toxic at all, it's fine the way it is? Actually, very, very few. This surprised me. Even the ones who initially said no eventually changed their minds after we talked about it a little bit, and they said, yeah, that could be better. And some were basically the stereotypical gym bro. Look, I'm sorry, I love you guys, but you love the gym and you're bros, so... And they brought up what I consider are some very valid concerns on how we treat each other. And this negativity should go against the ethos of fitness, which is largely about self-improvement. So that's just something I wanted to address first, because there are some people who think the word toxic is overused nowadays. They might feel like it's used to describe anything someone else dislikes. Maybe. There's some nuance to that, slightly separate discussion. But my point is that all types of people seem to agree that there's something wrong with fitness culture, that it can be improved. So first I'll talk about why I think that is, and then give some ideas on how we can face these issues as a community, and not only continue to thrive despite a flawed culture, but perhaps improve the situation as a whole. Because we can do that. We can improve our situation. One of the good things, in my opinion, about fitness culture is the belief that we can improve ourselves. And one person's actions, you or me, may not have that much effect by themselves, but they can create a ripple effect, because the people you positively affect can also positively affect other people. And when we do this with a few 100,000 or a few million people, then maybe we can start to notice some positive change. But let's revisit our question. Why would someone make someone else feel bad on purpose? So, two things you can do to participate. First, when I ask that question, who do you picture in your mind? A gym teacher? A content creator you don't like? And secondly, do you think that person has good intentions? Because I think some of them might. My gym teacher probably thought that yelling at me could get me to do more push-ups. It didn't really, and it didn't get me to do fewer push-ups either. It was just noise to me. Sorry, coach. But some people do get motivated through being yelled at, and they try to motivate others in the same way because that's what worked for them. But unfortunately, not everyone responds to the same things. And even more unfortunately, I don't think the majority do that from a place of purely good intentions. It's a hard thing to study and quantify exactly, but my experience is that even when some people claim they're saying something to help others, they might partially be saying it to help themselves. At least partially. Fitness culture has a problem. And part of that problem is a deep, deep well of insecurity. An ocean of it. A T-Rex, dinosaur, blue whale, Mount Everest of insecurity. And not just from the people who want to learn, but from the people who teach the stuff, the people who preach it. Wait, why are you all looking at me? I'm different. I'm the exception. I'm calling it out, so I'm the exception. I'm different. I'm on your side. That's what everyone says. And some might be right. But why do people teaching fitness, spreading this stuff, some of whom are very muscular, athletic, and let's face it, very good looking, some of you are very handsome specimens. Why do these people we're learning from have so much insecurity? What are they insecure about? Well, part of it is how we're motivated and what we allow to motivate us. See, a lot of fit people you know weren't always that way, at least not to the degree they are now. And people who are dedicated enough in their craft to somehow make their way onto your radar so you even know they exist are often very motivated individuals. So what's motivating them? Different things. But sometimes, as many of you know, we're motivated by shame. Shame, and even deeper than that, fear, is a very, very powerful motivator. It's hard to deny that. You take someone who's self-described as unmotivated and you have a bear chase them around and suddenly they're running as fast as they can, getting their cardio in. The secret to exercise, you just need bears. Who would have thunk? In a similar but less extreme way, this is how some people shame themselves into progress. Ugh, I'm so fat, ugly, or otherwise undesirable, then I'm going to work hard until I no longer disgust myself. And that line, sorry, I know it was disturbing to some of you, drove some people to make great gains. They weren't as fit as they wanted to be, and now they are. Cool. But is that motivation sustainable? And even if it is, does it have any side effects? Now, this is an interesting discussion that I think is best had as an actual back and forth discussion, because I think some people would say no. Some people might have already paused the video and they're writing a comment about how shame actually worked for them, and they didn't have any side effects. And I'll admit, in a video like this, where we can't quite have that back and forth, I might not be able to give all the nuance and details. But I will add that people might define shame in different ways. For example, if you're 5 years old and you're in public school and you fart in class, and everybody laughs at you, because that's what a lot of kids do. You're embarrassed, and that's not great, but you also learn not to do this as an adult in a board meeting. So that's you learning based on a negative reaction you're getting, and some might say that's fine, others might not, and even if it's not, I don't think that type of thing is entirely avoidable in our lives. And I do think it's okay for some people to show a little tough love on themselves if that's what they need to get themselves going. But to me, shame is a more extreme version of that. It's where you go beyond the point of learning and being helpful, and you start to feel some serious negative consequences. For example, if that kid that everyone laughed at got beat up later on, and then humiliated, and then refused to go to school, that would be bad. I can't convince everyone, but I'm quite wary of being okay with letting ourselves be controlled by our fears and insecurities. Because yes, it can motivate you towards good things, like physical health. But if we don't learn to reconcile our insecurities and keep them at bay, then they might control us in ways we don't expect. If you thought you were ugly or unworthy as a human before you got fit, because you were overweight, let's say, does that nag at you a little bit if you put on some extra weight and someone points it out? How do you react? What if you get sick and you had to stay home for a few weeks? Do you feel like you're less of a person because of that? What are you going to do when you get older and your appearance and your physical ability isn't quite what it used to be? And more to the point of this video, how does that lead you to treat others? Because sometimes you lash out, right? We're not at our best or our friendliest when we're insecure and anxious. Or hungry, I guess, but that's a separate discussion. A lot of separate discussions in this one. But even the way you act towards the people you love might be affected. The most obvious example might be a negative form of tough love, where you figured that because you were shamed into progress, others can be too. That's the good intentions part. The other part is everything else. When we feel jealous and speak negatively towards someone just because we perceive their progress as a threat, that's not a healthy thought, my friend. When we hear and see negative comments, not criticism, which is different, but just hate for no reason, those people are usually not doing great. Of all the wonderful ways in the human experience that we could be spending our free times, which is often scarce, yeah, leaving troll comments online is a strange one. But I think a lot of them, unfortunately, are from people who are doing poorly. In my experience, people who are truly happy and doing well usually aren't trying to tear down others for no reason. Misery loves company, and people rot with their own troubles and insecurity often want to bring down others too. Yes, they are making others suffer, but they themselves are sometimes suffering. And no, it doesn't always excuse it. That's why I often hear as a response. But I do feel like it gives context to it, if we have an idea of why these people are acting so strangely. And unfortunately, their actions bring down other people, which is what they want, and these people they hurt sometimes go on to hurt others, and it perpetuates this cycle. Kind of the stereotypical, I had a bad day, so I'm gonna take it out on my family and friends type of thing. See, just like the people we positively affect can create a ripple effect, so can the people we negatively affect. It's a negative ripple. But the good news is that we don't have to perpetuate the negativity. We do have a choice. Now, this is the part where some people might expect me to say that if we respond to negativity with positivity, if we respond to hate with love, which sounds kind of cliche, then we can break the cycle. And we can. But I feel like people know now that it's not always that easy. Some negativity is easy to ignore, but others really jab at you. We're not always doing the best ourselves, so when others pile on top of that, it can be pretty hard to ignore. And when someone hurts us that much and tries to bring us down, it's not always easy to, in quotes, respond with love. Plus, it can feel fake sometimes, right? I just want to get that out there. It does feel fake sometimes when someone insults us and we say, oh, I love you and I'll pray for you. So while I do think we can respond to others with more love and understanding sometimes, and not always assume the worst about them, I think an important step before that is to reconcile our own insecurities and fears. Because yes, taking care of yourself is pretty important. Don't know if you've heard. Because while it can take a long time to do this, you'll notice that as you do it, you become increasingly more resistant or immune to the negativity in the world. And just like it might be easier to bring people down when you're feeling down, when you're feeling happy, it's also easy to bring people up because you want them to enjoy what you're enjoying. And spending time working on yourself isn't a selfish endeavor, at least not entirely, depending on how you want to look at it, because it can be easier to help the weak when you're strong. Or to use another metaphor, if you don't like that one, if we're all in a deep hole together, you can be in a better position to help others if you climb out first yourself and pull them up. But it's not super easy to heal our own insecurities and face our fears, right? They're tricky things. To face the things that make us feel the most vulnerable, not always a pleasant experience. So I still have fears and insecurities too. Let's just get that out there. Most of us still do. But I found that we can reduce the power they have over us by facing the truth. Not the truth you tell yourself to feel better, or tell others, or tell the judge, but the actual truth that you might know, or at least suspect, deep inside. And we can start to find this by asking ourselves what our deepest insecurities are. And then we ask why. And then we ask if there's any truth to them. And with this method, which is not always pleasant, we can start to turn our fears into understandable truths. Oh no, I'm weak becomes, yes, I definitely could be stronger, but I've been working out, so we'll see where that goes. Ugh, I'm ugly becomes, not everyone is going to like how I look, and that's okay. Also, good thing physical appearance isn't the only thing that matters. I'll spend my time with people who want to be around me. And there are many other examples and details I didn't mention here. Another separate video, perhaps. But to summarize, we can first work on ourselves emotionally. And then we can better create and respond to the world in a positive manner, because we're not as bogged down with negativity. And with this, we can start to create positive ripples. To not only be resistant or immune to toxicity and negativity in fitness or anywhere else, but to actively spread positive change in that environment simply by existing and interacting with others. That sounds pretty cool to me, yeah? Thank you for being your wonderful self, and I hope you have a wonderful, beautiful day, my friend.